Good evening and welcome to the TLC Unleashed Show, Hollywood Vibes, Sports and Life. We're live in the studio today in sunny California. So another great show ahead of us. We've got Mark Feinberg all the way from Jupiter, Florida. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks, Tracy. Good to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Mark is the world famous America's faith-based coach. Yeah, he's
World famous?
world famous.
I think you're exaggerating.
He's going to tell us all his secrets, everything that he knows today. Otherwise, we're going to have to kill him, right?
I will tell all, I promise.
So tell us, what is a famous faith coach all about, Mark?
You know, some of our listeners may confuse that with, faith as religious, but, what I do is I help my clients to activate their faith in the area of believing in their life, believing in their journey, their purpose, their calling, their mission, and what they're doing to impact humanity and make a difference in the world. So, that's my purpose, is to stand in the gap for others and to help them to, find their purpose and be the full expression of that purpose through believing and through faith.
Very good. And you started out in the produce business how many years back, and how long have you been doing it?
Oh, my goodness. We used to get the biggest carrots from Canada. It was
Canadian grown.
Carrots, potatoes. You guys had a great growing season. Yeah. Well, I ended up in the fruit business as a 20-year-old young man. And I didn't know actually, what to do with my life. And I was waiting tables, and I was in the food industry. And I met a gal, a bartender, my first day training in this restaurant, and we hooked up. And her brother had a fruit business. So he put me on one of his trucks, taught me the fruit business, and about a year later, I started my very first produce company.
Amazing. And how long did that go till?
Oh, my goodness. That was like over 20 years, like 21, 22 years. And I sold that company about 12 years ago when I was 41 and retired.
Okay.
It was really cool because, I was always afraid that I wasn't going to eat. We grew up really poor. And it was like, come on, Mom, go to work, do something. Mom did her best. Dad was gone. Yet, I always had this fear, like we didn't have enough food. And so I ended up in the food business, my first job as a dishwasher. And I had, half a sandwich coming back and some extra fries left over on a plate. And it was like,
I did it too.
Oh my goodness, this is like the best job in the world. I want to be a dishwasher for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you're like, score.
Score.
Free food today.
Yeah. So that was like at 15 years old. And then, that journey continued as a bartender, as a waiter, as a cook, and then eventually into the produce business.
And then you transitioned in 2009. I had read in your bio that you had said that you had been through the financial crisis and actually grown your financial business, a solution business, and sold that in 2016, right?
So it was like, okay, what's next, right? And it just seemed like the whole world was falling apart at the time. It seemed like everybody was either unemployed, losing their job, losing their money, and the stock market was crashing. The real estate market was unraveling at record pace. It went up and it came down twice as fast. And so what I did was I started a financial solutions company, and we used a book. I used a book that we wrote. My partner at the time and myself, we had a book, we had a radio show, and that's how we became hunted in the debt business. And we gave away the book on radio, on our broadcast. It got the phones ringing, and it was just perfect timing.
What was the name of the book at that time?
Life After Debt.
Okay, and so how did you get through a financial crisis? I wasn't in America at that time, so I don't really know how it went. But how did you get through it? So you're saying the book and just having the leadership skills that you had to get through this and to grow that business into almost a $5 million company?
Well, it was like, everybody, it seemed like in America, was struggling with something financially. And it wasn't everybody, but there was a good majority of Americans that were, unemployment was at an all-time high. The stock market had just crashed in the middle of '08. Real estate market started crashing, and it was like America was imploding financially. Right now we're over $20 trillion in debt, so it hasn't gotten much better for the United States of America at large.
True.
Yet for consumers, I think we're much better off than we were back in '09, and the opportunity was there to help other people, to coach other people through their debt crisis, help them to stay in their homes, and it was just we were in the right place at the right time.
So how did you gain these tools in order to teach people how to get out of debt? Was it personal experience as well as schooling?
Yeah, that's a perfect question. So when I retired in 2006,
Okay.
I was one of those people that went into the real estate market.
Okay.
So I was building big mansions, and I built a gourmet market, and I was building things, and I had all the rest of my money in the stock market.
Okay.
And what I had worked for over 20 years was gone in less than 20 minutes. And so as I was managing my own debt load, and as I was negotiating with banks and creditors and vendors, and this humongous debt load, what happened was I realized I had a gift. And I started to realize that this is not an isolated experience.
Yeah.
I must be going through something like many other people.
Of course.
I just had the wherewithal to start a company. And partner up with a great great friend at the time, and had a niche on Christian radio. Went right into the church and started helping all my brothers and sisters in the church out of debt, staying in their homes, helping them to restructure their debt or to get on budgets and become better stewards. And it just worked. It was a home run.
So, well, let's go maybe a top 5 list. So what are the top 5 things in all the aspects and all the facets of life? So how to get out of debt or keep yourself from getting into debt, would you suggest?
Oh, my goodness. 5?
5. Let's just go with 5.
Yeah,
maybe we'll go with 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think we could probably get to 5. I think,
Okay.
the first one is, if you're working for someone else or you're in business for yourself,
Yes.
you must pay yourself. So what does that mean?
Yeah, pull a salary.
It means that when you get a salary, if you work for an employer, you don't take your paycheck and then start paying bills with it before you pay yourself. See, getting a paycheck from an employer doesn't mean you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Not until you pay yourself. Then you pay your light bill, then you pay your water bill, then you pay your credit card bills, or you pay the landlord. Whatever it is must come after you pay yourself. So, my theory was teach my clients to pay themselves 10%.
Okay.
Put that 10% away so they've paid themselves. Now you have 90% of whatever's left over to begin to manage with everything else.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one principle,
that.
paying yourself. A big principle in my life is tithing. So because I go to church and I'm a believer, I want to give 10% to God. So sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's a little more, and there's times that it's a little less too. But on average, the principle of tithing is when I sow, something grows.
Okay.
And that's exciting.
And so that's great. So we all have different beliefs, and I know not everybody has the same beliefs. And so let's touch on the other part of that. So if they aren't willing to tithe, or that's not part of their lifestyle or part of their choices, is there something else they can do in replace of that so that they're not missing this part?
I guarantee our listeners are already doing it. Most people are charitable in nature. They love to give.
So paying it forward, not only just in the church, but also just in life in general.
It doesn't mean you have to be in the church to tithe. That's a principle in the faith.
Yeah.
Yet there's probably a lot more people that don't go to church that are way more generous.
Yeah.
And give away way more money.
Yeah.
Than people in the church.
I agree.
It just seems to be that way. It's kind of like an 80-20 rule, like the Pareto principle says that 20% of the crops are producing 80% of the fruit. Well, it's the same thing in the church, and I think just in general, when people are blessed. And when people are prospering and experiencing abundance in their life, they want to share that. And so people, will get around a cause, or, start a charity, or just be a part of a charity, or join a board of directors and be involved in a cause that is near and dear to them. And I think that that's where people put their money as well.
Yeah, and I think too, Mark, is that a lot of us, we get in certain situations in our lives where we're not able to give as much as we want to, or we may be able to give as much at one point in our lives, and then sometimes we can't. So, it's okay to just give a little bit, or give your time, and time is money, and that's the way we look at it. So, if you can give your time to a charity and an organization as well, I think it's almost even more significant than actually giving the physical money if you don't have it.
No doubt about it. You're so right. And, I think that is a great way to participate if, you don't have the money to give, but you do have the time, that why not? Exactly. Why not participate? Why not contribute? Why not serve and share and give of your gift? It doesn't necessarily have to be of money. But if we're talking about money principles, you know, paying ourselves, tithing, you know, and then, you know, another principle would be investing. Like constantly putting a few dollars aside to put into a Roth IRA, to put into an annuity, to put into a savings account, to invest and buy, you know, one stock a month. Even if it's $50 is all you can put away, you know, you can take that $50 and buy a share or two shares or 5 shares of a stock that you believe in, and you continue to, you know, compile stocks that way.
That's a hard thing, and I'm going to say from experience, because we're in the here, we're in the now. Sometimes we're not in the future, and we're going, okay, this is going to benefit us later. So what about the people that are kind of like, you know, because there's people out there, they struggle or they're going through what they're going through. So how do you convince people or teach people how to go, hey, just put a little bit away, $20, $50, whatever it may be. So what are some of the tools to teach people that?
So do you travel?
Yes.
Quite a bit?
Yes.
Do you always brush your teeth no matter what hotel you wake up in?
Yes.
I mean, look at your smile. So listen, it's a discipline. And when we want to convince ourselves that we can't do the discipline, guess what? We're right.
Yes.
We're right. We can't do it. Yet if we want to convince ourselves that we can do the discipline, then we're right again. We can. And it starts with taking that first step, whether it's paying myself when I get a paycheck, whether it's as an entrepreneur taking a paycheck and paying myself out of that before I pay everybody else, whether it's investing in a stock, no matter what it is, you know, all those things are disciplines. So if we're brushing our teeth, if we're washing our hair, if we're putting fuel in our car when we run it on empty, you know, these are disciplines, and they're patterns that we've learned not even to think about it. We just do many patterns in our life and many disciplines in our life. So some of the disciplines, like financial disciplines, investing, saving, you know, supporting causes. Those take a little more mindfulness.
Yes.
They take a little more being deliberate and intentional about creating a new pattern in our life.
And I know you work, you've got some projects coming up too with, we'll talk about your books and stuff later, but in transparenting and things like that. So what would you teach your children? I know you have 4 children yourself.
I do.
A lot of us have kids out there. I'm a proud mom as well. So teaching our kids how to put away and to invest. How do we teach our kids this?
We model it for them.
Okay.
I think that, you know, as parents, we are responsible. We are called to model good behaviors and good disciplines for our children. Now, oftentimes over the years, I did the opposite. Right? So I might have crushed my child's spirit, or I might have raised my voice or yelled at them. Or maybe, you know, in disciplining them, I didn't spend the time to love them after the discipline. So there were times that I didn't model very good parenting. Maybe there are times that, you know, my children look on at my life and they see what kind of car I drive, or where I live, or how I dress, or what I spend, or, you know, the bill at the end of dinner, and they go, wow, we could just go, you know, spend whatever we want. So it's up to me to be a responsible parent, to be transparent about my parenting. It's funny that, you know, my client Anthony and I, we just finished a book project called Transparenting. I mean, we just finished it. We're putting the final edits on it, and I was just at his office yesterday, and we're talking about the power of parenting and the power of intimate, deep connection with our children, and how we model those behaviors for our children. So whatever financial, you know, modeling that we're doing, our children are watching.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Okay, so we've transitioned through this. So, you know, you've got through this part of your life, and now the faith-based coach. So when did that come about, and how did it come about for you?
You know, over the years in my financial business, I ended up with a lot of entrepreneurs that were in debt. They not only needed to get out of debt, but they needed to scale their business again. And so what we did was, not only did we put them on a debt restructuring plan or a debt settlement plan, but what we did was, you know, I also gave them an opportunity to work with me and to coach with me. After 20 years and millions of dollars in earnings and tens of millions of dollars in revenues in the fruit business, you know, I had something to say and something to share. And so once again, duplicating that in the financial business, you know, I was able to find just the right, you know, clients that wanted to not only get out of debt, but scale their business or reposition it or rebrand it or, you know, learn how to do something different during that crisis.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing a lot of business coaching.
So let's talk about 4-time heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield. So, I mean,
just want to talk about Evander all of a
yeah. Well, I mean, reinventing and going in. I mean, we've all seen his career. We know, you know, what he's been through at the top of his game.
Yeah.
You've worked with him as well.
You know, that was probably one of the best times in my life a few years back, helping Evander. So,
Yeah.
you know, let's take it back a step further.
Okay.
You know, I'm 31 years old, and I get my trucks out of the warehouse, and they're all on their deliveries.
Yeah.
And I go to make a fruit salad for breakfast, and I realize, you know, today is a day for pancakes. So I put the knife down, I put the watermelon back, and I go down to the IHOP down the street, and I go into IHOP, and who's sitting next to me? Whitney Houston. All of a sudden, Whitney and I strike up a conversation. Our breakfast is served simultaneously, and she picks up her breakfast, and she slides across from me in my booth. And she was having a moment in her life. She was driving around all night, North Miami Beach, where she lived at Williams Island,
Yeah.
and we're having breakfast together. And here I am ministering hope and ministering strength to her in a moment of time. And that was the moment for me, Tracy, that I realized that my gift was going to make room for me, that I could sit in front of anybody and I could have a conversation and have something to offer from my life. Now, I wrote Evander that story in a letter that I hand wrote 5 years ago as he was going through some challenges himself financially.
Yeah.
And I sent the letter off, and sure enough, a week later, I get a phone call from his assistant, Toy. And Toy says, "Hey, Coach Mark, I read your letter to Evander, and he would like to meet with you." And so it was just at that moment, and once again, perfect timing,
Yeah.
that Evander needed some counsel. He needed some collaboration.
Yeah.
He needed somebody to come into his life. And I just happened to be Johnny on the spot, right? So sure enough, a week later, I'm sitting at the W Hotel in Atlanta, and here comes walking in my sporting hero, Evander Holyfield. And I taught him how to reinvent himself coming out of the ring,
Yeah.
and I showed him how he could use his credibility as a celebrity and endorse companies and go out and share his story as a speaker and, you know, and coming out of the ring. It was hard because, you know, he made over $300 million in the ring.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, what do I do? What do I do, you know, beyond boxing? And he figured it out, and he's a dear friend today, and I just love him, and he's an incredible champion, and he's a champion in life because he's had his own struggles, his own challenges, and he continues to overcome all of those, and he goes out and he shares his story and impacts children's lives, and it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
So what do you think's the hardest part of your job, Mark?
I think the hardest part of my job is to make sure that my own life is in check, that I have harmony in my spirit, emotionally, in my family life, financially, so that, you know, physically in my health, that when somebody calls on me, like an Evander Holyfield, like his dear friend who's now my client and my dear friend, 84 Olympian Henry Tillman, or Shannon Briggs, who I've been working with for a couple of years, who, you know, we helped get back in the ring and he lost 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to be in shape. If I'm going to speak power and authority into people's lives, then I better have my life in order.
Yeah.
And it's never 100% in order, Tracy. I don't know whose life is.
No, of course not. I mean, it's all a work in progress, and it always changes. And that's great that you brought that up because, you know, being in the position I am in life as well, being a life success coach, is that, you know, a lot of people look to me. And if, you know, and there's people that's sitting in, you know, the sidelines waiting for you to trip up, and there's other people in your corner cheering for you. There's, you know, all different types of people. But you have to make sure that you're practicing what you preach and that you're out there, you know, being a good example to people and role modeling, you know, fitness and health and wellness. And so how did you help Shannon Briggs lose 150 pounds? That's a significant amount of weight.
I told him that he was full of himself. You know, we met at the fights, and he knew I was working with Evander, and he knew I was working with Henry Tillman.
Okay.
And he asked me to spend some time with him. He invites me over his house, tells me he wants to get back in the ring after 3 years, lose a little weight, have a few fights. And I looked him right in the eyes. We're in his man cave in Pembroke Pines in his house.
Man cave.
Yeah, he's got a cool man cave, right? So we're in his man cave. I'm on his turf, right? And I'm the guest.
Yeah.
And he tells me all this. And I look him right in the eyes. I said, Shannon, you're just full of yourself, man. And I said it a little differently, you know. I said it pretty harshly. I said, bro, you know, if you're going to get back in the ring, you're going to get back in shape and you're going to go win another heavyweight title because you're the 2-time heavyweight champion. For crying out loud, you beat George Foreman for your first title. Yeah. Come on, let's go. Let's go, champ. You want to get back in shape? Let's get back in shape. Let's lose the weight and let's fight for another title. The last 2 years, he lost all the weight. Yep. Right? He's in the best shape of his life at 45. He's got more first-round knockouts than any other heavyweight in history. He's knocked out over 45, 46 guys in the first round. Yeah. Imagine, like, you know, he leaves the locker room and he says to his wife, hey, honey, I'm going to work. I'll be back in about 45 seconds. You know?
Yeah. It's like, back in less than a minute.
Yeah, I'll be back in about a minute 12 this time. You know, this guy's pretty good. So like, he's got more first-round knockouts than any other heavyweight fighter. Like, he's got something to say about some things. And it was just a matter of him believing in himself again. And I challenged him why. Yeah. Because, listen, at the end of the day, I ran away from home. I dropped out of high school. I was addicted to drugs till I was 30 years old. I was in pain all those years, right? And so I was a victim for all those years. Yeah. I finally turned on my light at 30 years old, right? So the last 23 years, I have finally found Mark Feinberg and stepped into my own power and my own identity. But where I come from, I've got nothing to lose. Like, I've got nothing to lose by telling people what I think. Yeah. That's what I do for a living. People don't pay me to be their friend. People pay me to tell them the truth. So I speak the truth in love, and I stand in the gap for my clients. Yeah. And I was, you know, Shannon's a giant. Yeah. I mean, he's massive.
Yeah, he's a
You look at him, you just want to run the other way. Right? The dude is just
he's enormous,
right? Yeah. And so, but yet I had nothing to lose. Yeah, I was in his home. I was in his man cave. But he asked me over, right? He didn't ask me to blow smoke. He asked me to stand in the gap for him. Yeah. And that's what I did.
How did that make you feel after? So you see this man, Shannon Briggs, 2-time heavyweight champion, go through some stuff in life. He's got 150 pounds of extra weight on him. He's obviously going through some emotional stuff, big time. And you come around, turn it around, work with him. And how do you feel after that, looking at him? And, I mean, that is the most rewarding thing in life. It must be.
Well, the night that I left the house, he told me to get out of his house. He's like, hey, he says, Coach Mark, you ever been hit in the head before? I said, Shannon, I ain't never been hit in the head before, but I feel like you're going to hit me right now.
Like, I'm running now.
He says, you don't know what you're talking about, man. Why don't you just go home? Right? He was kind of pissed.
Okay. This is when you first came to him and told him?
When I told him that he was full of it.
Okay.
Yeah, he was pissed. He sent me packing after dinner.
Of course he did.
Kicked me out of his man cave.
How long till he called you back?
The next morning.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Coach, I'm sorry, man. Yeah. I didn't mean what I said. You're right. You're right. And so he, you know, the last 2 years, he's knocked out all 9 guys that he's faced. 9 out of 9 guys. He's getting ready for another title fight at the end of the year. And so it's rewarding. It's rewarding to know that my life matters. Because for a lot of years, I didn't think my life mattered. Yeah. And whoever's listening or watching our broadcast, what I want to say is that each one of us matter. Each one of us have a voice. Each one of us has a gift. Each one of us has an opportunity to live in purpose or live on purpose and go out and have an impact on humanity and die empty rather than taking all our dreams to the grave with us, right? Yeah. Rather than taking all of our dreams and all of our ideas to the grave with us. Like, we can live them out here on earth and we can die empty if we believe that we matter and we believe that we're good enough. Yeah. And listen, that's a conversation within me. It's a conversation within you. It's a conversation in every one of my clients. I decide if I matter. I decide if I'm good enough. Not my ex-wife, not the boss that fired me, not the girlfriend that dumped me, not the client that said goodbye to me. No, I decide that I matter each and every day. I decide that I'm good enough. And when we do that, what we realize is that we can stand for anybody in any industry that we're in, no matter what our gift is, and we can offer that freely, and people will want to be around us, and people will want to participate with us.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So, I mean, when we get to that place in life, you've gone to the bottom and come back up. So I know what it's like to go down to the bottom. Same thing, 31 years old, life just completely, the bottom fell out. And I've got many second chances. So how did you overcome all the things you were going through? Thank you to my personal fanning boy, by the way. Do I get grapes with this service?
I was just thinking.
I am on fire. I'm not going to lie, guys. It is so hot in here. So if my face is melting off, this is why.
Yeah, it's because wherever you are, it's going to be hot in here, okay?
Thank you. Lee is like fanning me from behind the scenes, so I just want to thank you.
Yes.
I'm slowly sinking into a puddle into my chair. And I'd also like to quickly just to make a note that I'm actually going to have Lee give Moreland Greenwood the number for the call. And I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. If you can text it to him, please, because Moreland Greenwood, superstar ex-NFL player, is going to be calling into the show tonight. So we don't want to miss this.
Come on, Moreland. Get on the lines, baby.
Yeah, he's not able to Skype in. So,
all right.
So, Mark, how did you come from the bottom and climb your way up? Because, I mean, you're such a phenomenal man and you've been through so many things and like, what was it for you? Is that where you found your faith, or did you have faith before? Was God in your life before all these things?
Yeah, good question. I want to say that, I probably hit a bottom every couple weeks for about 25 years.
Only every couple weeks? Mine was 24 hours. Thank you.
I remember losing all my wealth and all my worth financially in that debt crisis.
Yeah.
I also remember, I also know today that curse was a blessing. It became a blessing. My curse, being in, losing everything, became a blessing because I settled tens of millions, almost $100 million in debt, and helped thousands of people all across America to get out of debt, to rebuild their business, to stay in their homes, to fight for their families. And so I remember a specific moment that I called my uncle Norman, right? And he's here in California.
Okay.
And he's been my mentor in life, my whole life. And he's spoken truth into my life, ever since I'm a kid. And I remember having this conversation with him. And the conversation went something like this. He says, well, sweetheart, if you can crawl into a hole, then you should know the way back out of it.
So true.
And I was like, I wanted to just say, F you.
Of course. Because you're in pain at the time, of course.
Right. He's retired since he's 50. And he's lived an incredibly stellar life. He's extremely charitable. And he's just a man of honor and integrity. And he's been that source for me in my life. That model. He modeled integrity. He modeled success. He modeled consistency. He modeled being reasonable and being practical and keeping a cooler head when things go wrong.
Yeah.
So that conversation, was one of those life-changing moments for me where I thought, yeah, you're right. If I dug my way into this hole, then I should have the roadmap to back out of it. And it took a year. It took a year, into the second year.
Yeah.
But I completely came out of that hole to where then I was a shining light for others, and I was able to help others find their way through their crisis.
Absolutely.
So that was the moment. Thank you, Uncle Norm.
Aw.
Yeah.
Sounds like an amazing man.
Yeah, he's incredible.
It's great to have that support because not a lot of families do have that. And that's the thing. I mean, there's people going through hell and back and they don't have that support of the families there. So, for the people that get through it, I give them so much praise. And that's where we like to ask for people to reach out and lift their hands to help others people up, because not everybody has that support and love.
And it's so important to have accountability.
Yes. Right?
Because that's one of the keys to financial success.
Yeah.
Is to have financial accountability with an accountant, with an advisor, right? With a spouse, right? That you're doing your budget every month together. That each of you know where the money is coming in from and where it's going. So that's another financial principle that we were talking about. That might be the third or fourth.
Okay.
Is accountability.
Yeah.
Yet for some of the viewers today, like you said, they're trying to figure things out on their own. So that's the first mistake, is thinking that I can go through life on my own. Because if I look behind me, you know what I see? I see a big fat mess on my own, right? And I love teaching. You know, I do a broadcast live on Facebook Mondays through Fridays, 9:45 Eastern time for 15 minutes, and we go through the book of Proverbs. Yep. And there's a proverb in chapter 11, verse 14, that says that there's safety in a multitude of counselors. There's safety in a multitude of counselors. And so what is that? What is, you know, this is written by the wisest man to ever live, King Solomon, right? God asked King Solomon, you know, what can I give you? And Solomon said, I need wisdom to lead your people. So not only did he get wisdom, but he also got financial blessing and prosperity and abundance. So if we look to Solomon for some wisdom in the Proverbs, he's saying, hey guys, you know, don't go through it alone. You want as many advisors and as many counselors as you can. And if we think about the greatest ball players, like, you know, maybe a Tom Brady today, you know, or LeBron or Michael Jordan, they had shooting coaches, dribbling coaches, financial coaches, marriage coaches, health coaches. You know, they had a whole host of advisors. That's why they're great. Because they were teachable and they learned to receive counsel from a multitude of counselors and advisors. And that's why they stayed great. They were continuously outstanding because they never tried to do anything on their own.
Absolutely. And it was a great lesson learned. We were at Forbes Factor. How long has it been now?
A month.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a month.
A month ago. Wow, that flew by already.
Yeah.
So what an incredible experience.
Yes.
Though. And for me, one of the breakthroughs that I had was learning from Forbes Riley and yourself was to ask for help from others. And in the last 4 weeks, it's been incredible because I've actually learned to ask for help and then just sit and accept it and not say anything and say thank you. And people have showed up for me in ways that, and you know what the thing, and I have to be honest, is that I didn't realize what I was doing. I was pushing people away and not allowing them the gift to give to me and to help me. And so I always was kind of resentful because I never really spoke up to ask for help. And now that I am, everybody's just, you know, giving me as much as they possibly can and more. And what a blessing.
That's a great point. You know, I'll share a quick story. When I was in the produce business, I had this best friend, Joe, and he was about 15 years older than me. He was on disability as a paramedic. You know, he had retired, and he was, you know, he got a disability check every month, so he was okay paying his bills. Yet, you know, every week we'd get together for lunch, and I would treat. We'd go to dinner, I would treat. We'd go shopping, and I'd buy him things, right? One day, he grabs the check really quick, right? And he says, I got this one. I says, come on, man, put it back. No, you don't. And he looks at me, he goes, you know what, man, you're selfish. I said, I'm selfish? He goes, yeah, you're selfish. He goes, for years you've been treating me. The one lunch that I want to treat you and bless you back, you want to rob me of my blessing? And that just cut to my heart, Tracy, because I realized that giving and always being the one paying and picking up the check was a form of control. It was really a form of control. Right? And so as life coaches, as business coaches, the way we stand for others, we're constantly pouring out and giving of ourselves. And it's just as important to be able to receive from others as well.
Yeah, it is a form of control. I realized that today, thank you to my friend Brian, because it was funny. He goes, well, you drive to the station. And I go, no, actually, you drive. I got to put on my makeup. I just got out of the gym. And he goes, good for you. You finally spoke up. And I went, interesting, you said that. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he goes, you finally asked somebody else to drive you because you're always, you know, taking over and taking control. And I was like, no, you know what? Actually, you go ahead. And he goes, good for you. You know, and it was just, it's funny to see a different perspective from other people. What do you think is the key ingredient missing between two types of people that are in victim role in life or in living in the glass half full?
Oh, that's a good question. What was it for you?
I knew he'd turn around on me. This is what he does. It's all mindset. So for me, you know, I could be a victim. I've had a lot of, you know, terrible things happen to me, and my life has not always been great. So for me, putting myself in other people's shoes and just being able to feel other people. I'm also an empath, so for me, it's easy to feel other people's feelings. Discipline is a main word that comes to my mind because I practice zero discipline in all areas of my life. So disciplining, not doing drugs, not smoking, not drinking, not doing promiscuous things, not doing all these things, and being, a role model as a mom and doing all these things and over a period of time. So it created a very good habit. So that's what worked for me, but not a lot of people can do that, So what are your tools that you can help other people with?
So, victim mentality for me was all rooted in unforgiveness. I blamed my dad for leaving it when I was 6 years old, right? I blamed him for why I was insecure, why I was afraid as a little boy. I was molested by my neighbor who was a sheriff. So I blamed that experience on the fact that, now I had to do drugs and hide that pain and cover that pain. But that was at 11 years old, right? I started doing drugs at 12, and I didn't stop till I was 30. What happened? Like, that's 18 years later. I'm still blaming Daddy. I'm still blaming Sheriff Ray. I'm still blaming my first girlfriend for breaking up with me. So at 30 years old, I think I finally came to and recognized that I could be right, that it was everybody else's fault, or I could be right that I'm the common denominator in every relationship. With the exception of being, violated sexually, like that, I had nothing to do with that.
Yes.
But every other relationship I was a part of, with my mom, with my dad, in all those relationships, my girlfriends, my ex-wife. So I could either go through life blaming them, and blaming them meant that I didn't forgive them. And not forgiving them meant that they owed me something. They still had to pay a price. But that wasn't serving me. It wasn't helping me to forge forward in life. It wasn't doing anything to help me to build a business or to maintain a lifestyle that was healthy, right? It was eating me up inside. They didn't know. I was the one that was suffering.
Of course.
And so the power of forgiveness is probably, after love, the second most powerful principle that I've ever learned in my life. And so when I forgave everybody, here's what happened in that transaction. I got all my power back. My mom didn't have any of my power. I had it all back from her. My dad didn't have any of my power. I had it all back from him. And every individual in my life that had my power, I forgave and I got my power back. And now all of a sudden, I had all this power to create the life that I really wanted to have. And I realized that I was the cause. Not the blame, but I'm the cause. Like, this is my life. And the results in my life are results that I'm manifesting from choices yesterday, the day before, last month, last year, 53 years ago. Like, this is an accumulation. My life today has been an accumulation of 53 years of choices. And so what manifests in my life today has been, the sum total of all those choices. And nobody's to blame. It's nobody's fault.
That's right.
It's, it's all on me. So today I stand as the cause. I say I'm responsible, and I continue to live in that place because that place is a very powerful place for all of us to play from.
I agree fully. What are some of your daily traditions that you do in order to be a successful, healthy man in body, mind, and spirit?
Yeah, that's great. Well, I jump out of bed and I sit right down in my massage chair.
Those massage chairs are incredible. We need to give a shout out to
Ralph from True Medic. Yeah.
True Medic.
What's up, buddy?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, that would definitely start at your day, right?
Yeah, so that's one. I'll just jump into my massage chair and get into the zero gravity position, and away we go. I'm getting refreshed right away.
Yep.
I like to meditate.
Okay.
Yet it's very difficult.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because it is difficult. A lot of people, especially, people are busy. We've got busy lives where a lot of, minds are going all the time. I mean, my mind is always going. What are some of your key techniques to being able to meditate and concentrate and focus and just center it down?
Well, there's a mindfulness to listening to my breath. There's a mindfulness to just allowing all the busy thoughts to kind of play their course.
Okay.
And dissipate.
Yeah.
There's a visual focus internally on, a light or, something that would put my mind at ease and at peace. So, I like to pray, but, prayer is mostly me talking and asking. So meditation to me is more listening prayer.
Opposite.
It's listening for the voice of God. It's listening to the Spirit of God speak to me about my day, about my responsibilities, about being a dad, about my children, about my clients, about, the way I contribute to humanity. And so, it's a matter of just, once again, having a discipline. And this is probably one of the most challenging disciplines other than my weight, my physical weight, which I've been challenged with my whole life. I go up and down like a yo-yo over the years. But listening and getting still is one of the most powerful disciplines, yet one of the most challenging. I love to pray. I love to read the scriptures.
Okay.
I go to the gym every morning, 5 a.m. with my son, Jonathan, who's 16.
Cool.
And so we're working out together. He brings 2 or 3 of his friends, so they all come pick me up at the house.
Oh, you're still cool dad then. That's good.
I'm cool dad. Yeah, I'm cool dad.
For now, right?
Yeah, except, everybody at the gym thinks I have 7 kids, then they're all mine. It's like, no, this is just one son. These are his friends, So I'm working out with half the offensive, the offensive line, every morning with Jonathan. And so we have a good time. Then they all come back and we make a protein shake, or I make them a couple dozen eggs, and, we get on with our day. So working out, I love going to the gym. And, you love being in the gym. You're there probably, 6-8 hours a day at the gym?
At least, yeah.
Well, not just for you, but for you and for your clients. I mean, your days at the gym.
Exercise is my life pretty much daily, yes. So tell me, how do you feel and how does that affect the rest of your life? Having your weight going up and down, like you said, how does that affect your life as a life coach, as a parent, as in relationships, when you're not on track in your healthiness?
That's a great question, because as a man being financially successful, I could care less if I've got the girl. And I'm doing well financially. It's like, all right, an extra 10 or 15 pounds, who cares?
Yeah.
Without the girl or without financial success, it's like there's more motivation, it seems. It's been in the lean times, in the times where I'm, laying down by myself, that I realize that, I can pour more time and energy into my health. As I've gotten older, it's just become a priority. I want to live a full life.
Yeah.
And I want to leave it all here. And I want to have the energy for each one of my children, each one of my clients. I travel the world. I've traveled the last 2 years with a professional golfer on the European tour, Robert Carlson, who's been on tour for 27 years. Yeah. And I've been all over Europe the last 2 years. And, those are long flights. Those are big travel days, 10, 12, 14 hours sometimes. And so, I've got to be in work mode, as soon as I get off the plane.
Absolutely.
And I need that energy. So as I've gotten older, Traci, I realized that, it's not so much the weight up and down. That's a reflection of the inward condition of my heart towards being in a healthy lifestyle. Okay. So today, that's a priority, is to be healthy, to climb up and down my townhouse steps and do my cardio, to go to the gym with my son, to eat lots of greens. I like green juices. I love protein shakes. And, I love good food. And so it is a priority. And it is one of the most important things, aside from being spiritually grounded, which helps me emotionally and mentally, being physically healthy so that I can optimize my time wherever I am.
Absolutely, because if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And as a life success coach, and health and wellness is what I promote and practice. And so I teach people that's number one for me, because if you're not balanced in that area, everything is going to be affected. And that's why I asked you that question, because you can be as successful and have as much money as you want. You can look great and you can get the ladies or whatever it may be for you. But if you don't have your health and you're not feeling like you have your optimal energy. And when you wake up in the morning, I mean, to ask my clients from somebody who's 50 pounds overweight to 100 pounds to 20 pounds to 5 pounds, what the difference is. And it's energy. I have no energy. I'm lethargic. I feel tired. I feel weighed down. It's not like, I feel fat or anything like this. It's not about the physicality of it. It's about how do you feel, and that's the way you're showing up in life. So being a life coach, for us to be able to present that and being able to show people, what we need to be doing, but just for us to be able to feel and, spread that onto others. I mean, my son, he said the most rewarding compliment I could ever receive as a parent. He said to me the other day, he goes, he just graduated from Twist Conditioning School, Sports and Conditioning in Vancouver, Canada. So congratulations, Cody.
Way to go, Cody!
Yeah,
woo,
shout out to Peter Twist. Yeah,
Cody!
But he goes, I just watched you, and I wasn't always the healthiest person. I mean, I drank and I ate whatever I wanted. I was always kind of at a certain weight, but 38 pounds up, drinking and boozing and partying and all that stuff, and just very, very unhealthy. So I always suggest people to get on a health and wellness plan to start and then go from there. So work from the inside out.
Yes.
And
that's how we met. I mean, we met online almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you were offering these health plans on Facebook. And I snatched one up, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made, because out of that came a friendship, and out of that, I'm sitting here almost 2 years later. So I think, the health plan is very important. I think another thing that you stress is supplementation. You sent me some SWAT fuel. And my son, he snatched that SWAT fuel up from me, and he took it all. He wouldn't let me have it. He's like, Dad, what are these things? This is amazing. And his workouts have changed dramatically since he's doing pre-workout, drinks and SWAT fuels and stuff like that.
Well, I think Mark only calls me because he wanted a SWAT fuel in the mail. So anyway, we've got our sample packs. I didn't take one today because I'm already sweating profusely. So I'm giving you these today because I know you're still waiting in the mail.
Yes.
But www.swatfuel.com.
You just said you were giving them to me.
I'm giving them to you.
Hello.
So you've got some in the mail.
Jonathan, you're not getting these, Jonathan. These are mine, man.
So amazing. I don't stand behind a lot of products. Supplementation, I like the very holistic, natural way. So vitamin C, multivitamin, things like that. But SWAT Fuel, I love it. It gives me sustainability and focus so I can work out. And I know Mark loves them too, because he's like, first thing he says when he sees me, he's like, got any SWAT Fuel? It didn't show up. Where is it?
Where's my SWAT Fuel?
What about you for supplementation? Are you big into that?
Green juices with protein powders. Yeah. Pre-workout, I don't know if I like pre-workout drinks so much.
Yeah, I don't like them at all.
So I've learned to have a little protein with some water before I go work out.
Okay.
Throughout the day, you know what I have? I do have a liquid vitamin that I take.
Okay. Alive.
Yep. I like that.
Yeah,
I like the liquid vitamin, so I use that as my supplementation.
Okay.
If you opened up my cupboard, I've got multi-level marketing boxes from all my friends.
Yeah.
From every possible company that has products and health supplementation.
Yeah.
And I buy everybody's stuff because I want to support everybody, but for some reason, I'm not in that discipline of taking pills every day and taking supplements like that. But these guys,
they're amazing.
These I look forward to.
I am a proud health and wellness coach because I saw what's in your fridge, and as you showed me,
you saw what's in my fridge.
Well, you screenshot it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, and
I was like, when were you at my house?
Yeah, I haven't been there. But you showed me because I'm like, yeah, I do want to see in your fridge. Show me your fridge. So yeah, just to clarify,
check out my fridge.
It was a screenshot, everyone. Back off. Well, now that we have 5 minutes left, I want to make sure we dive into
what's in the fridge.
What's in your fridge? Okay, anyway, sidetracked. So speaking of that, Mark, what are your books that you have out already? Where can we find them?
Thank you. The second book that I did was called The Secret Money Pill.
Yep.
prescriptions
Love
for
it.
designing a debt-free company.
Yep.
That financial masterpiece was directed towards the entrepreneur that wants to live a debt-free life in their business
Yes.
and in their life personally.
Yeah, it's
so that's a
great
bestseller
book.
on Amazon. That was a few years back, and I've got a new work coming out called the Wisdom Journal, a tool to teach people how to look to the source of wisdom in the scriptures, right to the Proverbs, whether you're Christian or Jewish. You know, I grew up Jewish, and so whether you're Christian or Jewish, a Muslim, no affiliation to a religion whatsoever, everybody wants more wisdom for their relationships, for their finances, for their health, for their fun and adventure in their life, and for contribution to humanity. I think everybody wants to have greater wisdom. And I'm teaching people how to use the Wisdom Journal as a source, you know, as a tool to read a proverb a day, to pick out one verse, and to be mindful of that verse. And so what I've created is the WISE method, W-I-S-E. W is for the wisdom for today, which is the verse that you pick out. The I is for the interpretation for today, and that is, you know, what is God saying, or what is this verse speaking to you? What are you interpreting about this one verse that stands out for you today? The S is for strategy, so that's where I teach you how to make a battle plan to go into your day and to allow your verse to influence or impact your life. And then the E in the WISE method is the evaluation for today, and that is when you come back at nighttime and kind of reflect how that verse showed up and how mindful you were of paying attention to that verse in your life and allowing that wisdom to influence your life.
Beautiful. We've got 1 minute left. Mark Feinberg, where do we find you on social media? So it's under Mark Feinberg on Facebook.
MarkFeinberg.com, M-A-R-C, Feinberg, Feinberg.com.
Good. Monday to
Facebook,
Friday, we can see you, your 50-minute Proverbs.
9:45 Eastern Time, 6:45 California or Pacific Time. Only for 15 minutes, well, for 14 minutes till 9:59. So we go through a proverb a day. The cool thing is 31 proverbs. So whatever day it is for the month, that's the proverb we're looking at. I'm on Facebook, and I think that's about it.
Awesome. Make sure you guys follow this man. He's got great words of wisdom. It's early Pacific Standard Time, but you guys should be up by that time anyway. So make sure you watch it for 14 minutes a day, Monday to Friday. Mark Feinberg. Go out and get his book. Tell us again the name of your book.
The Secret Money Pill.
It is an amazing book. I also endorse it as well, so it's great. You guys go pick one of those up. We're here every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we're actually going to be filming live this Saturday. I'm going to be doing a self-defense class with Spice Williams Crosby. It's going to be filmed live. You guys are going to be seeing me go through some pretty intense emotional work and physical work as well. So make sure you stay tuned on my Facebook Live and www.tlcunleashed.com. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Tracy.